Hello and welcome to the development of Beyond the Darkness. Well, we have been busy for the last month and we usually should have a video up by now, but again, some things happened. For starters, I got a new PC. And it's a beast of a system which can now, with no problem, record everything we want. And besides that, we had some things to do which are not very interesting to look at. Of course, we also made some visual stuff, but yes, there is a lot that we cannot show you guys. But besides that, we want you to know that sometimes it's not easy for us. It really hurts when we achieve something really cool, but we cannot share it with you guys, so that's also a reason why it took so long. But the video is here now, so let's get started. Well, to begin with, I think most of you might have noticed that the level now looks very different. I am not in the demo level, I'm not in the showroom anymore. In fact, I am in a very tiny room. Yes, why is that? Well, for this video we try something special, which also is part of the reason it took a bit longer. Normally I would just open the level and I would show you guys the game and, well, show you what we made. But this time I'm gonna show you guys what we didn't make. If that's gonna make sense. Well, it's not gonna make sense now, but it will make sense later. Thing is, I will take you guys on a small journey through time, and therefore I had to recreate some things from the past. Designs and ideas we already deleted. So it took some time for me to recreate them for you, and this video might take a while, but if you guys care for it, I will take you through a design process of something we wanted for a long time. And it's something that's very dear and very important to us. Okay, so the style and setting of Beyond the Darkness is less built around monsters. Don't get me wrong, monsters are really cool, but we aim for something different. Something you could relate to in real life, I mean even more than monsters. After playing Beyond the Darkness or after playing the game for a few hours, you might feel different the next time you're home alone in the late evening or walking home at night, because you will remember scary things from the game. Let's say you came back from a party, you came back from the club, from the I don't know, from a bar, and you're just coming home and there's nobody there and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, let's say 4 o'clock in the morning, okay, let's go wild. And you have to put your bike in the shed. Suddenly you remember something from the game and that moment gets under your skin. Because it's possible your mind is just making things a little bit more real than you wish. Because, well, you saw things in the game, and the worst thing of all is this could be real. I mean, you heard the stories, you've seen things on the internet, you heard gossips, you heard legends and myths. And yes, you assume they're not real. I mean, come on, why? How could it be real? But if you're alone out there in the dark and you think about it, and you might hear something you wouldn't hear normally, at least you thought you wouldn't hear it normally, things can go wild, man. Especially in moments like that, your mind can really be your enemy. And we hope eventually Beyond the Darkness might leave a mark on some players. Not to scar you for life and not to give you any traumas. I mean, come on, it's not that bad. But it's the little unsettling feeling that stays with you for some time after you play the game. So that's a little bit what we're trying to achieve. Right, enough dancing around the ball. What? We wanted to create ghosts. And not just any ghosts, I mean beings from the shadows. Half in and half out of this realm. Spirits from the beyond and echoes from the past. Nothing more than a visual anomalies, but they can scare the living hell out of you because seeing a threat somewhere near you is not what it makes scary. What it makes scary is seeing a threat, a possible threat, and you cannot identify what it is. And that makes it scary. The unknown part, the brief of a moment that you saw something and your heart rate goes up because it could be something, but you're not really sure. So one thing we wanted to create were shadow beings, or shadow people. If you don't know anything about shadow people, you can look it up on Google. It might look a little bit silly at first, but if you read more and more into it, it gets a little bit scary. Because those things are real, I guess. And I must say, some of us have seen shadow people in real life, and that makes it even more terrifying. So, yes, it's something very cool and very scary and very subtle. But as cool as it sounds, from there we started a very long journey. We go all the way back to the Grey Block era, where we already were dreaming about scary shadow effects in our game and how we would achieve this. And then we found it. We used real-time shadows to create a shadowy figure on the wall. We placed a light on the outside of the level, so the light beam would go through the walls into the room, and when we put a model in front of the light, it casts a shadow on the wall. So that's it, shadow people were born, hooray!
No.
Except they were literally shadows, and this was not really what we had in mind. It needed to be something more blurry, more like a distortion in the world. And shadow people are not really flat shadows. So, no, this was not what we were looking for, so we decided to move on after, I think, a few weeks, maybe some months even. So, yes. The next idea was to use a screen effect. A screen effect does what you think it does. It applies an effect to the screen, like depth of field, or motion blur, or a color effect, etc. We thought it might be possible to use the screen effect on only one object. In this way we could blur out one object, but after a lot of research and many tries we saw that it was almost impossible to achieve. And with our skills we haven't found a solution yet. A screen effect or an image effect applies to everything on the screen, and there was no way to filter it out for one object. So for a long time we kept trying, and it was pretty clear that it was not a place for us to look for a solution. So again, we tried, we failed, and we moved on. So then what should we do? Well, we turned to shaders. Shaders are pieces of software, pieces of code that decides how an object behaves in the game engine itself. It responds to light, shadow, and the surrounding. A shader can make something reflective, or make something bumpy or transparent, or whatever you want, depending on the shader. So we tried several shaders to make something very dark, make something a little bit more edgy or blurry, or even glow something. Maybe we shouldn't go for dark, and we should go for white, like spirits and something that emits light and glows. But they were interesting, but it was not really what we wanted. And since we did not have the knowledge to create our own shaders, and since we couldn't find a real shader with the effect we had in mind, and believe me, we really tried and we tried, but eventually it just didn't work. So once again we had to leave the shaders and just move on to something else. But we started to run a little bit out of ideas. So what options did we have left? Shaders were a little bit too opaque, and well, the edges could be a little bit fuzzy, but the models itself were too opaque and we wanted something more transparent. So we moved to particles. We started with just a black model with some particles around it. And we thought maybe we can hide the sharp edges of the model and make it a little bit more blurry and a little bit more fuzzy. Yes, it didn't quite turn out as well as we thought. So no model anymore, and maybe we could do it with only particles, like some kind of smoke monster with human features. Sounds good, right? And it sucked. Well, we couldn't get the particles to move along with the model. So we could move it around like a frozen statue or something, but we could not, for example, make it walk, or wave its arm, or move its head. It just didn't work. So yeah, it was not really what we had in mind. And besides that, it was really hard to define a good shape. We still had the problem that it could not be animated with bones, so no, this wasn't the right solution either. And do you boys and girls know what happened then? Well, let me tell you what happened then. Then we gave up for a long time. We were done with trying to make Shadow People. It just didn't work, and everything we tried failed and failed, one after another, and we were done. We decided to move on to different things and different parts of the game and focus more on the gameplay and more on the engine and do some more preparations and getting things done. Which wasn't bad, of course, but it still did hurt that we had to leave the Shadow People behind. So weeks passed and months passed, and I think more than a year passed. But dreams don't die easy. And after such a long time, once again we decided to try again. Try something very different. And we decided to drop the whole 3D thing, and we started to work with sprites. It's very different, and I know it sounds really low tech and it sounds really crappy, but we thought maybe if we do this right, it could work. And it's all up to you to decide if we really succeeded in the end, but I think we might be on the right track with this. And things will change and things will improve over time, but this is the very foundation of the effect we are trying to achieve, and it will only develop and grow and change from here. And of course, if you guys have any questions for us, just let us know in the comment section. Thank you for supporting Beyond the Darkness, and thank you for staying with us all this time. In the meantime, keep an eye on the Facebook page, and I hope to see you guys all back in the next video. But until then.